What's up? What's up, my PBM family? What's up? How y'all family doing today? How y'all doing today? Listen, I told you I was going to be working on some new projects, and I've been working on some new projects for y'all. I appreciate y'all sticking with me, hanging around. As you can see, we got a new setup. We got a new look. We're going to be touching bases on several different topics. But you know, our bread and butter has always been police brutality. So you know we're going to zero in and talk about that. My new co-host is going to be Shane. My boy spent many years on the job. He worked on the SWAT team. He's from the community. He can relate. He has his own mind, the way he thinks. He has his way of policing that I guarantee you will like. So not only that, I'm bringing special guests. You know, you got a lot of podcasters. You got a lot of people online. They're just telling their views. And it's okay because everybody has one. But when it comes down to this particular platform, I'm bringing my own personal experience. I'm bringing people that's in the field, people that's experts, a part of what we're talking about. So this is what's going to make our platform a lot greater than any other platform out there. So I appreciate y'all. Today we're going to be talking about suspicious person. Everybody knows, everybody heard when an officer responds to a suspicious person's call. And not only we're going to dissect it, we're going to dive into the technicalities of it on the police end. I got one of the baddest prosecutors that came out of New York to join us. I thank her for joining us. She's very busy, so I'm so happy that she gave us time to come on the show, and she's going to dissect and just dive into the technicalities coming from a prosecutor. Now, how many people on Instagram, IG, who brings this type of excellence and professionalism and experience to the conversation? You don't see that with any other platform, but this one here. And I'm going to keep bringing special guests on that's experts in the field. Shane, you my new co-host. You're gonna be riding shotgun with me, like yes. You see these old school cops, and we're going to tell them about the old school versus what we see here. Go ahead, tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Correct. I'm glad to be part of the show here. I'm glad to be your co-host, Joe. We've been talking about this for a while. I've been a cop for 20 years, 4 years on the force. I was 16 years as a SWAT commander, sergeant, working College Park PD. Done that for a long time. So I bring a lot of wealth and depth to this podcast. I'm just happy to be here, Joe. Happy to join your team.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. And I appreciate that. So let's just dive right into it. Let's start the video. And when we come back, we're going to have that special guest, that expert, and we're going to break it down, and she's going to just tell us. It's going to be amazing. I've never seen a prosecutor on here telling about what the technicalities of it, because you got to understand, when you start talking about the culture of policing, the culture of attorneys, prosecutor, everybody has some form of a code within that.
Right.
The people that I bring on, they don't believe in that code. They believe in right or wrong. They'll tell you whether the person is right or the person is wrong. This is a platform that I'm letting everyone who comes on, they don't have to agree with me. They bring their own expertise, their own views of what it is that they see. And this is what you guys love about me, and I'm bringing it right back to you. So let's get this video going, and when we come back, we're going to bring this special prosecutor, special guest that I got that's going to join the segment today.
I'm telling you to stop, and I'm not going to tell you again.
And what will you do if I don't stop?
I will detain you.
Detain me for what?
You're not listening. I'm doing an investigation of a suspicious person.
Suspicious person? Have I broken any laws?
It doesn't. That's not the point.
Any laws?
Someone called you, and it's a suspicious person.
Okay, and you can be a suspicious person, Mr.
Really?
Ray.
Really?
I feel like you're a suspicious person.
How would I be suspicious?
You look suspicious to me.
Okay, how would that be? I'm in a marked
You're a
police
white
car.
man. You're suspicious to me.
I'm suspicious to you because I'm a white person.
Yeah, with a gun. You're suspicious to me.
No,
now
stop.
Get away from me. I haven't done anything out of the way. You can't arrest me. Arrest me right now if you want to.
Here, turn around. Put your hands back.
For what?
Because you're not. Stop. Turn around.
What have I done wrong?
Because you're not listening to me.
What have I done wrong, sir?
Get the phone out of my face. Because you're not. I'm investigating a suspicious person.
Sir, what have I done wrong? I'm not suspicious. I haven't done anything. I'm walking up the street. I haven't done anything wrong. I don't have any.
Neighbors have called on you.
Sir, I don't care if anyone has called on me. This is not their area.
This is a public roadway, so this means...
Okay. It's a public roadway. That means that I have the right to be on this roadway. Yes or no?
Everybody has a right to be on the public roadway.
So I am not a suspicious
But you don't have a right to be on anybody else's property or curtilage.
I'm not on anybody's property.
Why would someone call it in?
That's their concern.
So they're concerned.
Hello, listen, I'm recording right now because this police officer just walked up on me saying I'm a suspicious person and he was going to detain me for whatever reason.
Because you're not listening.
Wow.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. As you can see, family, my PBM family, Marie Pierre, she just joined us. She is a former prosecutor. She spent many years in one of the largest cities in the state, United States, New York State, Brooklyn, New York City. We're going to really, I brought her on because as cops, me and Shane are cops, right? At the end of the day, when it's all said and done, we will have to take that next piece of ball and hand it over to Marie. And she would either look at it and go, guys, you guys are just horrible police guys. You guys don't know the law. Or she would take and go, okay, I can prosecute this. And this is why I can prosecute it. So it's good to have a relationship as a cop with a prosecutor. So you're the first point of contact when we start talking about the introduction and to officer locking somebody up. When the officer locks somebody up, the next very step is the prosecution office. So Marie will be that next step. And I'm quite sure she's seen files and arrests. She's like, I can't even believe this guy was a cop. And then on the other flip, she said, oh, okay, this guy's a good cop because he dots the I's, crosses the T's, he knows the law. He makes my job just a lot easier. So we're gonna dive into this. Shane, we'll leave Marie her analysis last.
Okay.
We'll let the cops go first, and
Okay.
then we'll let her close it up. So go ahead, Shane.
All right. The first thing you see is that this young man is walking down in the street. He's just walking. The cop comes to him and says, we read a report about a suspicious person. Now, for me, I got to go back to my in-service training. I got to go back to the academy. What is the definition, really, if you think of a suspicious person? A suspicious person, really, if you break it down, is a person who's acting suspiciously, meaning that they're in an unusual place or unusual situation. Let's break down the elements of suspicious. It could include nervousness. It could include avoiding eye contact, or maybe acting in ways that indicate a crime. So just based off that definition, what this young man was doing indicates none of that. And if you want to break it down further, Joe, if you look at a suspicious person, you could break it down in a few categories. You can look at behavior. You can look at appearance. You also can look at activity. Let's say behavior. Let's break that down. Let's say a person's abusing drugs or abusing alcohol. That's suspicious. Or maybe a person being confrontational or unpredictable. That would fall under other elements of behavior. Let's break it down further. What about the appearance? Maybe wearing perhaps inappropriate clothing for the weather. Let's say it's 20 degrees outside. We're in Brooklyn, and the person got on shorts and a hat and no jacket, or just bare skin. That could be suspicious. And then you could also look at activity. Maybe a person is doing something in the same pattern, perhaps driving in an erratic pattern, or perhaps leaving a business, closing, open. Those are elements of being suspicious. So far, this young man is walking down the street, and the officer says, I'm looking at anybody who's suspicious. You didn't even get a chance to assess the situation. You didn't even look at any of the elements of a suspicious person. You said, I got a call, you look suspicious, and if you don't stop, I'm going to arrest you. We can't do that. Right. I got to ask myself, where is the in-service training? Who told you that? First of all, let's backtrack a little bit. The person's walking, right? As police officers, and we do an investigation, they do not have to talk to us at all during an investigation. You can keep on walking, but this cop insisted that if you don't stop, I'm going to arrest you. Just right there off the top, Joe, was completely wrong.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I was getting more into the technicalities of it. And I'm glad you broke it down for the audience. And a lot of people think when an officer received a 911 call, his authority is based on the 911 call. And that's totally not the case. And I will say that again because it's trained to all officers over and over again. Even as an instructor, I've trained that to other officers. When it comes down to, I've taught that to other officers. When it comes down to a radio call, that's a mere summons for a police officer to respond to a particular scene and investigate what the allegations is. Correct. That's all that is. People Correct. Think, I've heard this millions of times, but the 911 caller is not a trained person. being suspicious is very subjective.
Correct.
Because I can see something as a police officer and go, okay, yeah, that's suspicious. And somebody else will go, nah, I don't think so. Or vice versa, depending on what community you're in, depending on where the person comes from, the person's background. Officers cannot go just on an untrained citizen that calls 911 and says that person's suspicious. That's what the officer's job is to do. Go there and investigate what is suspicious. What is suspicious about that person? Because being suspicious is not a crime. I can't lock you up for being suspicious. So when you see the officer come up and you touched on it, Shane, and said, yeah, I got a call, I'll lock you up. You have to talk to me. That's so not the case.
Right.
Because there's no charge in the books, any penal section. Suspicious is this particular crime. It's a misdemeanor. It's a felon, and you can get arrested for being suspicious. That's just not how that works on the books. It's just not how it is. So the officer was just dead wrong when I look at his actions. Do an officer has a right to come up to you and talk to you? He has a right to come up to talk to anybody. Because I see that all the time. People say, well, the officer shouldn't have. The officer has the right to come and talk to you. Now, how much authority he has to detain you depending on whether you committed a crime or not. Exactly. Now, the officer could have walked up, because I've responded to thousands of suspicious calls. And I mean, I've seen people, no, I thought I'm coming to visit somebody. I thought I was at this house, but I realized that's not the house. So I went, but somebody saw them and go, okay, I see somebody looking at somebody's house. They're looking at the door, then they go to another door, and then they go to because they couldn't find the location of where they was looking at. Is that criminal?
No, something that's lost. That's all it is.
Right. You see what I'm saying? So there's so many elements to a suspicious person, and the way this officer handled it, I think he, in my personal opinion, in my experience, I think he was dead wrong. He was out of line. His approach was, you're going to do what I say. In essence, yes, if an officer has the legal authority to take you into custody, to detain you, you literally have to comply. But every word that comes out of an officer's mouth is not lawful. People think when I tell you something as an officer, it's a lawful order and I have to submit. This guy didn't have to stop. He didn't have to even speak to the officer he wanted. So I think a lot of times when we see these type of interactions where it's conflict, I kind of hold the trained professional, I hold him more responsible on the outcome of this, because he's the one that's trained. He's the one that's supposed to know the law. He's the one that should know that I really can't lock this guy up because he doesn't want to talk to me. I would have handled it a little different. I'd have walked up to him and said, hey, how you doing? How's everything going? Because this is a consensual encounter. He does not have to talk to me. I'm not trying to be forceful. I'm not trying to show authority. I'm trying to be respectful. I will tell him, look, somebody in the neighborhood said you was being suspicious. People make mistakes all the time. Do you live around here? Are you looking? I would have tried to kind of smoothly talk to him and see if I can get him to talk to me, because he can literally just walk away from me.
Right.
I had no authority to hold him. Being suspicious is not a crime.
But so, the way you just pointed out, Joe, I don't want to interject. That was like de-escalation. The way you approach someone like that, that's called de-escalation. You develop a rapport. Hey, how's it going? Hey, we got a call. Someone's walking down the street being suspicious. Hey, we get these calls all the time. I just want to introduce myself. Hey, I'm Officer Browder. Hey, what's going on here? We just got a call. And let that person talk to you. But that's how you de-escalate and bring that person down to be willing to talk to you.
Right. And respect. I mean, I think respect is one of the key components. I mean, just showing respect takes you
a long way.
Yes, it takes you far in it. He automatically out the gate, and for me, he had no communication skills. So he fell back on my authority as a police officer. All out the gate is, if he didn't listen to what I say, I will lock you up. Sorry, you got no charge to lock them up with. So
we know the old school saying, Joe, you get more bees with honey than vinegar.
That is so true. That is so true. So as the audience, you guys, you got one cop said no good. You got another cop saying no good. Now, we both could be wrong. So we're going to leave the final say to the prosecutor. At the end of the day, regardless of whether we lock this person up, it's going to fall on her hands and say, guys, either you lock this person up and you was right or you was wrong. So, prosecutor, tell us, what do you think here? Let's talk about, and I'm going to push back a little bit, and you'll never get canceled for disagreeing and having an opinion. I love that. This is what this platform's about. Now, as a cop, right? you said I have a right to detain him, right? What
with reasonable suspicion. You're not just going to be driving down and because you see a guy with his pants hanging below his ass, you're going to say, oh, I'm going to stop that guy. In our hypothetical in video, the police said there was a report of a suspicious person. So a call came in. It wasn't just a random stop based on profiling and racism, not from what I saw in the video.
I get that, but let's dissect, right? Reasonable suspicion. Okay, reasonable suspicion, right? It has to be certain elements that you as a law enforcement officer believe that a crime is about to be committed. Where in this video shows you that a crime is about to be committed or was committed?
He was trying to ask a question. The guy didn't give the police officer a chance. He just came out with an angry, raging black man attitude, okay? And that was just unnecessary. I feel like you have to look at the totality of the circumstances.
No, I
he
am
didn't
looking
give
at
the officer a chance.
Okay, hold on. I am looking at the totality of the circumstances, and I wish everybody who I would come in contact with would cooperate. But it's not against the law. The Constitution says I don't have to cooperate with the police. Now, me as a police officer—
But the police still have the right to investigate, detain while they're investigating. The same way you don't have to cooperate, they have to put public safety first.
Okay.
Within reasonableness and investigate.
Okay,
so if you want to act, out of character, they can cuff you, put your ass in the back of the car, and then investigate. They have the right to investigate, detain temporarily while they're trying to protect the public.
What are you protecting? What are you protecting? I'm in this particular scenario. What are you protecting? You're the cop, right? And you got this call. Calls are false all the time. I worked in narcotics. One drug dealer used to call on the other drug dealer so I can arrest him and I would eliminate his competition. So you can't take a 911 call at face value. It's up to the officer to go there and investigate.
And that's what he was trying to do.
Yeah, but I'm not obligated as a civilian, right, to help you with your investigation.
Right.
And he's not obligated to stop his investigation before an investigation even begins. He's not obligated to do that either.
Allows me to walk freely, right, without being detained, without due process, without cause. What is the officer's cause? Because I would love to just walk up to somebody because I got a 911 call and just detain them without anything. There's elements to allow me to stop them.
He was trying to question the individual. He didn't even get to the point of detention. He was simply trying to get some pedigree information and ascertain what was going on, who he was, get some ID from him, and there is nothing wrong with that. Especially if it's a result of a phone call to 911.
Okay, so the 911 call gives me a right to detain somebody without
it gives you the right to investigate the situation.
Right.
And if the investigation requires stopping the person and asking them a few questions and detaining them while you're asking the questions, yes.
But if I can interject, as a citizen, you don't have to answer any questions. You don't have to answer anything. And when you look at, we talked about the element of reasonable suspicion. We know that's the standard for an officer to stop and question someone if they have a good reason to suspect criminal activity. When this officer first came to the scene, he didn't have a good reason to suspect criminal activity. He didn't see anything. He got a call that said that someone was suspicious. So at that time, you get that call, then you can go ahead and ask some questions. But as the person who's being questioned, they're not obligated to answer any of our questions. And just because he didn't feel like talking, maybe he was having a bad day, didn't feel like engaging the officer, it doesn't give me the right. Okay, you know what? You didn't answer my questions. You're arrested. I can't. That's not even policy. I can't even do that. So
I'm in no way suggesting that based on those facts alone, this person could be arrested. Okay. My point is, a police officer, in the interest of public safety, receives a phone call and approaches a citizen that is deemed to have been acting suspicious by another citizen. That person should really stop and answer the questions.
He should. You are 100% right. And I wish that was the case. But that's not the case. People don't stop just because I'm a police officer and want to talk to them. It doesn't happen. So the question is, legally, right? Me as an officer, just based on a 911 call of another citizen that said this person is suspicious, me as a police officer, what law, right, gives me the right to detain, to take somebody's freedom? The Fourth Amendment, right? I have to have a lot of proof that this person was involved in some criminal activity, or he's a safety to the general public to stop somebody. And that 911 call is not enough in my eyes.
It is not enough, but there's a big difference between taking somebody into custody and temporarily detaining them to ask a few questions. There's a difference there. And what that officer was doing was making an attempt to detain, to briefly question. It is not a full-blown taking a person into custody. And you're right, he could walk away. At that point, then the officer would have the right to follow him, surveil him, see where he's going, and do that.
Right.
I get that. But there's a difference between temporary detention to reasonably ascertain if a crime was being committed, is being committed. I get that. But you're not arresting the person, arresting and putting them into custody for a prolonged period of time. Temporary detention is not unreasonable if there is a reasonable reason for the police officer to have stopped that person in the first place. And a phone call saying a suspicious person is enough. And you're right. If he didn't want to stop and talk, both of you are correct. He could have walked away, but that wouldn't have stopped the police officer from then surveilling him, pursuing him, driving behind him slowly. The police have the right to investigate in the interest of public safety.
And I don't disagree with that. I totally agree with you. I think our disagreement is, me as a cop, I don't think I had enough to detain him, but I do have enough to follow him, to surveil him, to do all the things you did, because I've done that 100 times when somebody didn't want to talk to me, but I didn't have anything but a 911 call to say it's suspicious. And in suspicious, not even a crime. You can be suspicious, but does that mean that you committed a crime or you're a threat against public safety?
No, it doesn't, but it does give the police officer a justification for investigation.
So you as a prosecutor, would you allow me, right, to arrest him on what we just saw based on a 911 call of suspicion?
The police wasn't trying to arrest him. They were trying to investigate. And they had reasonableness to do that.
There's nothing saying I have to help the police officer. You heard the officer say, I'm going to arrest you. And he said, for what? He says, because you're not talking to me.
No, the police officer would not have the right to arrest simply because he failed to cooperate and answer questions during a period of detention. No, I would not co-sign on an arrest like that. I would tell them to release him from the back door immediately. That's what I would do.
Right. I totally agree with you, because when you look at it again, reasonable suspicion is when a crime seems to have been committed, then the probable cause is clear that a crime has been committed, and none of that has happened. So yeah, I totally agree with you.
But if I was in your position, in the position of the two of you, well-respected law enforcement, while I would be zealous in educating the public about their constitutional rights, I also would let them know to pick and choose their battles and make it make sense. Because you know what? You could be right, but all of that could lead to a gun being pulled, somebody's body cam being turned off, and then all of a sudden you were resisting arrest, and then bada bing, bada boom, you get shot. Is it worth it? You need to teach your people, all right? How to handle. They need to de-escalate, because at the end of the day, the life loss is going to be theirs. So I'm not a coward. And I'm not a person who doesn't respect the Constitution, but I also look at the society that we live in, and I would never counsel any young man or woman or person to act like that when the police stopped them, because it just was too much.
That's a very good point. I remember growing up in New York, the stop and frisk times when, my dad, I was a young kid, he would have us put on like fake glasses, and I would wear like a little suit jacket just to make sure, I was looking disarming to the police. I said, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, what have you. So I can definitely understand that point of view.
I'm with that. I'm with the yes sir, yes ma'am myself. When you look at, you know, a lot of tragedies that make it to the news, and there are so much that don't. But I put myself, God forbid, in the seat of Sandra Blaine, right? And that was tragic what happened. We still don't know what happened to that poor woman.
Right.
But when I look at the life that was lost and what could have been done to prevent it, you couldn't have, you know, prevented the profiling and the racism and the disrespect that she experienced during that traffic stop. But at the end of the day, she was smoking. He said, put it out. She was in her car. She never had to do that. But in hindsight, could she have de-escalated it? I'm all about de-escalating, even when you don't have to, because your life is on the line. If things had been done different and you could press rewind, I'm sure her family would have told her, do a lot of things different, Sandra, because you know what? It's not even worth it. So what I saw on that video made my blood boil, because I was more worried about the person being stopped, because I know what happens when people don't stop.
Yes, and I totally agree. And you're trying to take over my show, and let me tell you why, right? At the end of each show, right, I tell people all the time, we sit here and we tell you about our experiences, we tell you about the law and how to protect yourself from excessive aggressive police officers who may not follow law. And at the end of the day, all this matters is that you make it home safe, right? So your time to fight is not on that side of the road. So if it means stopping, it means you saying, okay, what's the problem? No, I wasn't over here. I'm going home, whatever. Do what you got to do. Your job is to get home to your family.
And right or wrong,
you take your fight to an attorney, you get to the courtroom, and that's where you fight that battle. Don't get on that side of the road and say, the Constitution tells me I can keep walking even when you're telling me to stop, because all you're going to do is piss off a police officer. And if he's not like me or Shane, he feels like I'm the one with authority and he's carrying some hidden prejudices to him, you're going to end up on the short end of that stick on that side of the road. And that's not what this is about. It's about you getting home to your family day in, day out. During this process of this conversation, yes, we're trying to teach you the law. We're trying to teach you your rights. So you know when you leave that side of the road to go home, you can explain to an attorney exactly what happened and where he violates your rights. The key focus on these conversations is to get you home at night. And Marie, you're 100% right. If everybody saved their fight, right? So after they left the scene, they would be alive and probably rich from all the lawsuits that they would have won. I'd rather would have seen Sandra Bland home with a big bag of money talking about the officer got suspended, I got me a lawsuit, but I'm home. But because of the need to want to defend and fight right then on the side of the road, at the end of the day, the officer, the legal authority has the upper hand, right or wrong.
Yeah.
Right or wrong. They're going to win. They're going to win. And I tell people all the time, you will not win on the side of the road.
No.
You will not win. So if it takes you just biting that bullet a little bit and trying to, you know, make sure you get home, do that.
Right. And Joe, both of y'all, Joe and Marie, you both brought excellent points, because at the same time, although the lawyer has a cover of law behind with that badge, you don't know that officer's background. We all went through in-service training. There's conscience of bias, you know, so you never know what's going on through that officer's head. So the best thing is to get home safe and fight another day. Hey, you know what, officer? No problem. Let me show you my ID. This is what I was doing. You know, be as kind as you can, because the goal is to get to your family safely. So I agree with you.
100%. And I just wanted to make it very clear, right? That the officer, even though Maria agrees with him, it is his job to investigate.
I tell you, I have Maria on my side. I tell you that.
But like you said, Marie, there's no way he could have got arrested on the information that he got, because there was no crime committed. His job is to go to investigate. Sometimes citizens like that make the job a lot harder to investigate. But it doesn't necessarily fall in the lines of you just committed a crime. So the officer needs to know what he can and can't do. I've always tell people all the time, I put the weight on the officer because he's the one who's supposed to know what he can and can't do. It's not up to the citizen. Right. It's up to the citizen to make it home. It's up to him to make it home.
Right.
You have to make it home. As that citizen, you make it home. So don't get into that battle with that cop, especially if a cop doesn't know. Like this officer, obviously, he didn't know what he could and couldn't do. He threatened you as an officer to tell somebody, okay, you're under arrest. That means you have enough elements to place him in custody and take him to jail.
Right.
You could tell he didn't because of the argument that he started arguing about, I need to talk to you. Why you arresting me? Because I want to talk to you. That's like who.
The moment you threatened arrest, he was fearful. You can tell he didn't have that much training. All of a sudden, he started using authority. You don't stop, I got to arrest you. No, I don't have to arrest you. I would like it as we just talk. I see that I may have caught you off guard. Let me tell you what's going on with this situation, what have you. You got to de-escalate. You got to bring it down, and it works on both ends.
That's what community policing is all about. Right. But for you to de-escalate and relate, you really have to understand the audience. And half of the time, they don't understand the audience. They're acting out of fear of the people that they're really positioned to protect. You can't protect and fear a community at the same time.
That's right.
That is so true.
So true. So true.
Marie, thanks for your expertise.
Yes.
Next time I come on, I'm going to tell you guys a story about a detention that happened to me. Okay. So when I'm
why the next time?
Telling
tell us now.
What?
Why next time? Tell us now.
Well, I'll tell you what happened. Oh. I was living on Long Island, and I had a family member who was in the driveway playing loud music, maybe 10, 11 o'clock at night, a young nephew of mine. And I think he was smoking weed in the car. This was maybe in the late, I want to say early 2000s, okay? In Long Island, in a predominantly Italian neighborhood. So I guess maybe a neighbor called to complain about the music, and the police pulled up in the driveway, tapped on the window, opened it, and smoke blew out, I would imagine. And they told him, what are you doing? You're making too much noise. As a matter of fact, step out of the car. And he said, oh, it's my driveway. I live here. This is my auntie's house. And so they tell him to get out. He gets out, and while he's arguing with this police woman, he says, you know what, matter of fact, let me go call my aunt because I don't have my ID on me. She'll tell you I live here. And he turned around to go inside, and the police officer tried to hold him, and he shrugged her, and he sped up fast inside the house. By the time he sped up fast inside the house, she was with her partner, and they both followed him and came inside my house. So I'm sleeping in my favorite raggedy pajamas, and I hear a commotion in the living room. So I'm like, what's going on? And I come down, and I look down the staircase, and he's standing there with two police officers asking for backup, trying to explain to them that he lives here. Right. And then they grab him, cuff him, and by the time they bring him outside, there were maybe 10 police cars outside. So they drag him out the house. I put my robe on. They cross. I live on a dead-end street, so they cross the street with him, maybe 40 feet, and they're proceeding to talk to him. And you know what? They hadn't cuffed him in the house. So they were trying to cuff him, and he was kind of flailing. So I'm standing on the sidewalk across the street from where they're trying to arrest him, put him in cuffs. And I'm telling him, stop flailing your arms. Let them arrest you. I will come get you, because I'm a lawyer. I was a criminal defense attorney. I said, calm down. So the police officers kept telling me to go inside. Meanwhile, I'm in my driveway. I'm looking feet away at them. I'm not on them. So I said, I don't have to go inside. I'm in my driveway. And they said, you need to go inside. We're not asking you again. Because I think they wanted to abuse him. And they didn't want anybody to see it. Because he really was flailing for real.
They wanted to tune him up a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I kept saying, no, I don't have to go inside. And I kept, saying his name. Just calm down. Stop flailing. I'll meet you at the precinct. Da, 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 da. And then before I knew it, they said, okay, you're not going inside. And they cuffed me. Put me in the police car. My kids were small at the time, maybe 6 and 12. They were sleeping inside. I told them I have kids in there. They said, well, you better call somebody to come and stay with them because we're taking you to the precinct. They arrested him and they brought me to the local precinct and detained me. I had to call someone to go stay with my kids. And then eventually they released me from the precinct and they gave me a ticket, and they charged me. They gave me a disappearance ticket. They charged me with a misdemeanor, interfering with governmental administration, and they charged me with a violation. Okay? I had to go back and forth to court on this. I had to hire an attorney. They refused to drop the misdemeanor. They all said that I jumped between him and them, didn't follow command, and I tried to prevent them from cuffing him. That never happened.
Right.
But they all signed off on their supporting depositions.
Oh, yeah.
And really, my friend who was an attorney said, Marie, you don't have a chance. They're offering you a violation. Take the discon, a disorderly conduct, and just walk away. Because at the end of the day, if you go to trial with this, they're all going to come and say the same thing and support each other's story. And you're going to get convicted. And it's a misdemeanor, and you probably won't go to prison, to jail. I'm sorry, because it's a misdemeanor, but it's going to be on your record as an attorney. And I'm a registered nurse too. So when you're renewing your registration, they ask, have you ever been arrested? I would have to say yes. Convicted of a crime? Yes, if I was convicted. And my friend and I knew I would be convicted because it's their word against mine.
Right.
Right.
So at the end of the day, maybe that's where my fear comes from, because I lost all the way around. I mean, eventually it was a misdemeanor and it was expunged from my, it wasn't a misdemeanor, I'm sorry. Started out at a misdemeanor. I pled to the violation. It took me months to be able to allocute in front of the judge. You're talking about Nassau County, a very, very Caucasian neighborhood, in an area where I practice. That I go before the judge, and I'm before the judge. They would see me and say, next counsel.
Wait.
Same judge that you were defending clients at?
You was in that.
I'm saying I was arrested and I had to make appearances in a courthouse, and the judges knew me as a defense attorney, and I was presenting before them as a defendant.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So the judge that I appeared before as a defendant, I would have to come back before him with my clients.
So you practice in that same courtroom?
Yes.
Wow.
So it was very humiliating.
Oh.
Each and every time I had to make an appearance. And I had to, the judge that I was assigned to, remove my criminal cases where I was the lawyer, not the defendant, from that judge. But I still had to pull up in the courthouse, and everybody was like, oh my God, that's that lady who got locked up.
Yeah.
It's still traumatizing.
It is, yeah.
And at the end of the day, I took the plea. So sometimes you have to put your pride aside and just do a cost benefit analysis and just see if this is worth the fight and what you're risking, your safety, your health, your life. So I knew I didn't prevent them from arresting him. I never crossed the street. I never touched them. And their complaint said, defendant placed her body between officer so-and-so and officer so-and-so in an effort to prevent us from arresting the subject by flailing her arms and behaving in a disorderly manner. And her intent was to stop us from making a lawful arrest. And they stuck to it. At the end of the day, they wouldn't drop the misdemeanor. My attorney said, you know what, Marie? I made a motion to dismiss in the interest of justice. It was denied. they're not dropping the charges beyond the violation. So the violation is not a crime, the misdemeanor is. So I just had to take it. I took that L. Until this day, I'm petrified of being stopped by the police because I'm well aware that people lie. Not all police officers, thankfully, but the group that arrested me and made false allegations against me and basically prevailed, because even though it was a plea to a violation, I still had to admit in open court, in a courthouse that I practice in, that I behaved in a disorderly manner. I did it intentionally, and I caused annoyance and alarm to the police officers.
Wow. I can bet you there's no body cams back then at 2000.
No, there wasn't.
None.
No.
None. So it was really easy for that to happen.
And that's so sad. You know what's so crazy? I was assisting, right, a traffic stop one day where I knew that the officers was really pushing the line when they started searching this guy. Because, you know, we could do protective sweeps of vehicles if we believe, you know, that, it might possibly be a firearm. But that sweep was real intrusive. To me, it looked like a search. They found like an 8-ball of coke in the car, right? I knew that it was a search and it wasn't a protective sweep. So the officer there, who was in charge of this particular incident, I was just
did he say he saw it in plain sight?
You know he did. You know he did. So he subpoenaed everybody there, including me. And I told him, I said, don't subpoena me. Don't subpoena me. So what they do, they called me to the stand. I told them what happened. Judge looked, it's like, case dismissed. And everybody walked out. The judge called me in the back, right? And this was me new. I was new on the job, right? He said, that is a very brave thing you did. He said, I know these officers come in here and lie because, you know, they push the limits. He said, yeah, I do. He says, but I want to tell you, you just started. You're brand new. You're going to get so much slack from them guys. Nobody's going to want to work with you, this and that. But
right. That was my thought. You basically put your life at risk because on the streets, your partner is the person who's supposed to protect you. And if they don't like you and they feel like you violated some code of silence in the face of, you know, violations against society, you spoke out against them, you're putting yourself out there.
And when I tell you, he was like, I commend you. He says, I love the honesty. He said, if you're going to start out like that, understand what comes with it and don't change. Stay like that. He said, don't play this back and forth. If you're going to stand on what's right and dignity and truth, stay on it.
Right.
Because other judges will definitely know you're going to have a lot more of leeway when it comes down to testimony. He said, I know cops come in here, they can understand they lie all the time. He said, and it's sad that I got to sit here and tell you that for you telling the truth, you're going to be penalized because your fellow officers are not going to look at you as one of them.
Correct.
I said, yeah, Your Honor, I know. I said, my brother been here on a job 7 years for me. My older brother, he says, I said, I already know. I didn't come to the job to be their friend. I came to the police in my community from them. And he was, wow. He said, good luck, man. He says, if you ever need anything, come see me. And that judge was always a good judge to me. He always knew that he could count on me to tell the truth. And he actually ended up giving me some part-time jobs to do parties, the security at his house.
Nice. Jobs, yep.
Actually pretty cool. He was actually a pretty good judge. And it's like, man, you just don't see that type of integrity in policing. And he said it's sad, but this is the day and age. That's what it is. And so I get it. I get it. I understand that. So this whole so many years later, police brutality, me calling out bad policing, I bet you if that judge is still alive, he goes, that doesn't surprise me. I knew when it first came out on the street.
That's right.
Yeah. So, man, I mean, see how sad it is? We can all sit here and tell you stories.
Oh,
yeah. System.
Oh, yeah.
It's sad. sit here and tell you stories about how it's unfair. And if you're on the wrong end of that, right, you have no shot. Now, for my audience, you got 2 police officers, veteran police officers, and a veteran prosecutor telling you it doesn't matter on the side of that road if you know your constitutional rights or not. It doesn't matter. What matters is you get home safe to your family. You make it home safe because the point that you're trying to prove may cost you your life.
That's right.
So at the end of the day, make it home, people.
That's right.
And you know what? I'm not saying, don't speak up at all, but you have to be able to assess the totality of the circumstances. And like y'all said, what time of day is it? What neighborhood are you in? Are you by yourself? Are there witnesses?
Right.
You have to look at all of that before you advocate so ferociously like that young man in the video, because depending on the time of day, it could have definitely gone left for him.
Yep.
True.
Yep.
So, such a good point. Such a good point.
And officers, they get the benefit of the doubt.
Oh, hell yeah, they do. I could tell you that.
Yep.
Handcuffed pajama mama lawyer.
Unless you can prove that they were wrong, they come in being right.
Yep.
Right.
They come in being right. So I'm glad that we turned to body cameras and that everybody has video now.
Oh, yes.
That has taken a lot of police officers back to where you can't do what you could do years ago.
Exactly.
But then again, at the end of the day, they be acting all wild with the video cameras.
And I still don't
you
understand.
really do have to do a cost benefit analysis. And let me, swing back to George Floyd. How about just get out the car and be cuffed? They had video cameras and they still did that shit to him.
Right. Right. Exactly. And that's just such another subject, man. That's going to be probably for another topic about these officers that are getting hired, man. Because some of them are not, the training that they're doing or how they receive, I don't know if they forgot it. I don't know what's going on, but some things I'm seeing, it's not good at all. It's not
unbelievable.
Good at all,
Yeah, and I was on, I think, Court TV on live with Jack, and I think you know Jack. He was a former federal officer, and he became
CIA. Jack Rice, right?
Yeah,
Rice,
yeah.
Yes.
I was on with him, and we was discussing the incident, and he was talking about the training was bad. It was, and I hear people all the time talk about the bad training. I said it's never bad training because what you see is not a display of training. There's no instructor that will sign off on any of the incidents where you see the actions that look so bad to say, yeah, I taught him how to do that. I trained him how to do that. He wouldn't do that. Is what you see is officers not following their training.
Exactly.
And right.
That's exactly what the problem.
Some people just have a murderous mind. Yeah. Some people are just racist. Some people are just power hungry. Yes. Some people just become police officers so that they can have control over people. And they misuse their authority. And that's just a person with an evil heart. You can't unteach evil when it's in your heart.
Yes. Right. That's so true. And to touch on your point too earlier, Joe, I had a FTO. I'm not gonna say the person's name. The second day I got on the field, forget everything you learned in the academy.
You know what you're going to say? I think that's a universal statement.
Yes.
I told that. My brother was told about. Forget everything you learned in the academy. Your training starts from now. That shit'll get you killed.
Yes. That's right.
You told that right out the gate.
Yep. You sure are. And then
right
you
out
look
the gate.
Mm-hmm. And then
I went to
look at things when the case happens. You got to go.
I went to Afghanistan with 119 police officers. We're all police instructors, hold high certifications within the police department to go and build a police international program for the Afghan National Police. So we lived in military. We lived on a military base, military style bunks. So you get to talk and just you live with a bunch of guys from all different backgrounds, different races, all over the United States. And what we all had in common, we was all police, and we're always told, forget what you learned in the academy, your training starts now. I think that's a universal statement all over the country.
Yeah. It's bad. It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
And I had to tell Jack that national TV, Jack, I agree with you. I love you, bro, but I'm going to push back a little bit. There's no such thing as bad training. It's what you see is officers not following training. Because you won't have no instructor or trainer sign off. Because you know how when we was in training in your FTO, he had to sign off every day that you performed exactly like you was trained to perform when they signing off on you. I guarantee you there's no instructor that will sign off on half of these incidents involving police brutality. Because it was like, I loved, and I think the prosecution of police, it needs to be done by a specialized unit. That if when you want to actually prosecute an officer, you should call in a specialized unit to prosecute you. Because I don't think local jurisdictions really know how to prosecute. I've seen one prosecution of an officer that was done correctly, and it was the George Floyd. They pulled his training, they pulled his instructors, they pulled the OIC of the training, and they said, "Are you training your officers to put your knee on people's neck?" And he was like, "No." I've never
Yeah, but you know, they had to get a special prosecutor
right
to prosecute that case.
Happen. I've never seen that happen in all the prosecutions that I've seen when it comes out of police officers. Because the Tamir Rice incident, everybody keeps saying, yo, officer has a split second to make a decision. He saw somebody with a gun and he just had to respond. He only had a split second. The training on how do you respond to that particular incident is so not the case. They train you not to respond that way. And I see anybody talk about the officer's response. I was the only one on CNN, Fox, like, we're not trained to respond that way, because if Tamir Rice was actually a bad guy with a gun, we would have had 2 dead officers instead of this dead little kid playing with a toy gun. Because you drive up high rate of speed to an armed subject and you're that close and the guy's standing with a gun, the guy's just gonna turn and just empty this magazine out right on the officer. You're never trained to respond now.
No, never.
Nobody said anything. Officer Loman just straight up got away with it. Nobody said his actions was improper. Nobody trains officers to do that.
And you know what's the crazy, Joe? Getting back to George Floyd situation, that cop was an FTO officer. He was training someone else there.
Yes.
That's the crazy part. He was an FTO training a new recruit. Crazy.
Him?
Yes. He was an FTO.
I heard his evaluation was horrible. I heard when he went through training, the actual FTO said, this guy's going to kill somebody. He's not following any of the procedures. And that's whole nother topic. When the police department, they sent, and this happened to my brother, because my brother was an FTO before he became a detective, right? He had a trainee that he was like, this guy's really not cut out for the job. At the end of the training, he went into the bosses and said, yo, this guy's not cut out for the job. Like, he just is not getting it. You know what the bosses said? Yo, we just spent 60-something thousand for this guy training. You just want us to terminate him, throw that money out the window just like that? You got something for him to do, because that's the money. The department don't have money to throw away like that.
They want bodies, man. They want bodies.
Yes, they do.
They just want bodies in there. They don't care where you came from. I remember our background check was intensive. I remember the psyche valve was intensive. I remember our our lie detector test. It was serious. Now you got guys just you looked first day like, how in the world did you make it through? There's no way in the world. There is no way. There were so many hoops I had to go through. Man, they went down to my first grade teacher. Everything. I mean, they from the rooter to the tutor they had you. But today, you just okay. You pass a little physical PTO test and you're in. That's it. It's crazy. It's really crazy.
Yeah. It is bad. Yeah. I don't want to keep you, Marie. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Marie.
Thank you for having me.
So enlightening. Thank you. We really appreciate you joining us tonight.
Yeah. And
when you get to the part where you're doing your specials on relationships, count me in. I need to tell you men about yourselves. Bring it. Okay.
Yes. That is on. Oh yes, we gotta talk about that. That's gonna be
all right.
Yes.
Talk to you later.
Joe, this is good, man.
Yo, that was good, man. We're gonna have some fun. This is gonna be a really good podcast. We're gonna bring on a bunch of special guests with expertise, even though I don't agree with the whole, she was talking more emotional than anything. No, he knows what to talk.
It was personal. It was personal. I could tell that it was personal. But when you look by the book, when we go by in service,
right?
Okay,
by the law.
Exactly. By the law. Reasonable suspicion. Did he suspect him committing an activity. No, we got a phone call who could be
Right.
someone with a vendetta. I don't like this black guy walking on my street.
Right. Yeah.
He looks so and so. So it's behooves us to assess the situations. Oh, you stop and talk. I can't. Hey, Joe, you don't stop. You get arrested.
Yeah.
Oh no, you're detained right now.
Right. You made a good point. A racist person see a black man in their neighborhood just walking, that could be considered suspicious to them.
Correct.
So they get on the phone and call 911. That officer can't go and arrest that person based on. They have to investigate, no doubt. But if there's not a crime that was committed or about to be committed, I don't even have a phone call by itself.
No,
right?
no. And then think about his mindset. Think about what he said. I'm arresting anybody suspicious.
Right. Exactly.
He said, I'm arresting anybody suspicious. So you already came with the notion. He's behind the quota. He got cool in the back room. He got to make some more arrests. He's not showing enough productivity. Something happened because he came out the gate. I'm going to arrest you.
Yeah.
How?
So I'm so glad she finally she got out the personal feelings and studied with the law. Because I said, can I arrest him? No. Okay. So I don't have the right. I don't have to answer you.
Right. And it's also Joe, it's discretion. I didn't feel like personally, I don't have to detain you. I didn't feel the element of detention. Listen, he don't feel like talking, so and so. This is what's going on, and if he's still walking down the street, how is he suspicious? He's still walking. I can jump in my car. I can leave. I can circle back or what have you. But I personally, I guess I don't know if it's being black, but being on the street from the hood, having experience.
You just don't.
I didn't feel the need to do that.
I didn't feel the need to do that neither. But you see how she kept saying public safety? I agree with that point. But where is he a threat to public? Where did he show that?
None.
Just phone call?
As a matter of fact, he took out his phone. He was recording. He's like, hey, let me record this because I don't know what's going on. So
You're suspicious. I feel dangerous.
Why? You're white. You got a gun. You're suspicious. And he's right. A lot of white folks be like, they're just trying to size you up, man. Look what happened with Aubrey, here in Georgia, where they jumped in the van.
Aubrey, yes,
and they just shot him up because he looks suspicious. He's jogging, and you running after him. So the guy was right. Hey, you suspicious? You got a gun? You white? You be faking like you're a police officer. You know, we had a guy in Atlanta who had lights, sirens. Dude had a fake badge, making fake pullovers. We're like, nigga, who are you? And he was answering all the questions. What are your RDOs? What are your day off? He had it so-and-so. We started hitting some call signs. I said, okay, this dude so-and-so. All right, hold on, we got to make a phone call. But you do have people out there doing that. So he was right to say, hey, you may be suspicious. You know, I'm nervous because you got a gun.
Yeah, 100%. Well, it's good, man. I love the way it's starting out. It's good. So I'm going to close it out. Listen, people, at the end of the day, right, me and Shane is going to sit here and tell you exactly what the law says, exactly what our experience in dealing with the people that we police. We're going to tell you policies. We're going to tell you procedures. And sometimes we don't even agree with some of the things that the law in our policies will have us doing, but we still follow them. So we'll tell you the difference between what it is and what it's not. And we'll tell you whether my personal opinion is this. But if policy says this is how we police, and we're going to tell you that. So at the end of the day, your job is to make it home to your family safe. So we challenge you to look up the Fourth Amendment. Look up when an officer has the right to detain you, because even the prosecutor who was in her feelings about you just comply because of her own personal experiences, she doesn't want you to get hurt. But at the same time, does the law require me to stop and help an officer with his investigation? In that particular incident, it does not. He can investigate who he wants. I don't have to help you. Even if I stop, I don't have to talk to you. I can literally just stop and go, I don't have anything to say without my attorney. I have that right. The Constitution gives me that right. But listen, you guys look it up, educate yourselves, and at the end of the day, read the room. And if this officer is not following actual procedures, policy, and the law, that might mean you might not make it home because he's in his feelings. He's going to use force that he shouldn't be using. And at the end of the day, he is going to be his word right, against yours, and hopefully his body cam's on. There's somebody filming it that will tell your side of the story. So
take your fight to the courts, people. Take your fight to the courts. Don't fight on the side of the road. Take it to the courts.
You lose on the side of the road 100%.
Yeah.
So people, stay safe, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Good night.